What up, what up? Can you guys hear me okay? I hope so. Happy Friday. Happy Friday the 13th. Good, Patricia. Yep, I'm not sure what happened, and I think your other hoodie should be there soon. I'm a little bit jealous for that one. $65? That's not bad, D. What's going on? Good to see everybody. Some homemade tortillas. Ooh. Some homemade red chili with homemade tortillas is the best. Good to see you, Miss Thang. Jill Moser, hello. Indy Pam. Hey, Steffa. Karen, Jen. Purdue. What is up? My wrench. Jari, hello. Sensei, what's up? Thanks for the emails today. I appreciate the correspondence. Mandy Ray. True Crime Housewife. Jim, what's up? Hope everybody's doing okay on this fine Friday evening. Sleuth, I got the wrong color hoodie. Did you get my email? Shoot me another email, because we don't send them out. So whatever you order is what comes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Sleuth Intuition live stream. We've been hitting Delphi pretty hard the last couple days for good reason. We had the court date Friday the 13th. What a strange day, right? To have court on a pertaining to a murder case that happened on the 13th. What's up? Hope everybody's doing okay. Color Hoosier, I know you meant hoodie, but Cynthia, just shoot me an email about it. That way I can compare it to the order. And if there's anything that's different from the order and what actually came, I'm sure there's something I could do. Or at least direct you in the right place, Tortillas con queso. I'm hungry too. So today we're going to go over all of the updates as far as what took place in court here in Delphi, what they were trying to accomplish, what happened the day prior, and the days leading up to the court as well. And there were some documents filed on both sides. from the prosecution and the defense. So we'll look at that, and then we'll get into some discussion about the Hammer and Nigel interview, which kind of goes with what we've been talking about, Kegan Kline being connected in some way. And not a hunch, but, actual documents, evidence, and official information is what's, leading me to believe that. And that's what I've been showing, I think, on the last 2 live streams, and I plan to continue that today. But most importantly, I'm here for your feedback. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, shout out to all you nurses out there. What's up, Tracy? What's going on? Lakeside in the house? What's up? Good to see you. Same manner? What are you referring to? Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrain right now. Did you see JLR out there yelling like a fool? No, I didn't see him. I saw him in one of the images I found on Twitter earlier, but I didn't know that was him yelling. I thought it was the other guy, the conspiracy and coffee guy. That's who it sounded like to me. I was like, oh shit, that sounds like that conspiracy and coffee dude. I didn't know it was that other guy. That dude's everywhere. I mean, you got to give him some credit. It's not like he's just fucking doing nothing. He's out there. So, haters gonna hate, I guess. Not my cup of tea, but you got some edibles? What's up, Silent Susie? Good to see you. Willow Rain, what is up? Oh, you haven't, Stefan? I'm going to play some right now. It's first on the agenda. Actually, let's pull up everything I collected for today. So I think we're going to go ahead and cover everything relating to Richard Allen's court appearance today. I got a shot from WTHR of Richard Allen in some stairwell. It's pretty clear, probably the most clear footage we have of him. Yeah, and he looks really tiny in this image. I don't know if the people around him are just massive or what, but he kind of looks like the young guy sketch, and we'll talk about that. So we'll play that. This another WTHR update, and they go over everything that took place in the courtroom. And then it looks like media was able to get a few moments with the defense, and both attorneys hang out and kind of make comments. We're going to watch that. And then Local News 8 interviewed Doug Carter, and they asked him flat out if the voice heard on Libby's video is Richard Allen. He has an interesting response to that question. We'll talk about that. And then we'll finish up with Hammer and Nigel. And I took it's not the whole thing, and there's links to all of this stuff in the description. So if you want to watch everything in its entirety. Oh, and I pulled something to follow up on our last live stream. There's a podcast. It's called Murder in My Family, and the link to this specific episode is also in the description. Well, they interview Mike and Becky Patty, and he asks them a really good question. He says, hey, you want to take this opportunity to debunk any of these rumors that are out? So they're going through a list of rumors, and then he asks him another very specific question about if the girls were actually kidnapped and taken away from the location and brought back. And I kind of want to go over what Mike Patty's response is. I think it's interesting. And ever since I really have been putting the timeline together from the PCA, there's this lost time. If you take the time from 213, how long it would take to get down the hill, cross that creek, commit a crime. And then you're even, and I'm being lenient with the time, 30 minutes here, 15 minutes here. So there's probably about 45 minutes of unaccounted for time. That's enough time to go somewhere and then come back, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying that. I just think we might find out. Don't be shocked if that ends up being a fact. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we're just going to hang out in the chat for a little bit. Hey, what's up, Richard? Good to see you.
Mr. Allen, anything to say?
We have 17 seconds.
What's up, Zen? Good to see you. Hey, Vanessa. You guys better stop talking about food.
Mr. Allen, anything to say?
We have 17 seconds.
Out of Carroll County, where a private hearing on the Delphi murders case is being held right now at the courthouse in Delphi.
Yeah, they do.
The man suspected of killing Abby Williams and Libby German, Richard Allen, is in person for that hearing. There was an earlier public hearing to discuss the prosecution's request
Shame
for
on
gag
you.
order and the defense's request
So
for
it
change of
begins.
venue. And it sounds like a decision was made on at least one
Oh,
of them.
yes.
Our Rich Nye was in that hearing and joins us from outside the Carroll County Courthouse in Delphi right now. Rich, tell us what you heard.
Well, Karen, the biggest decision made today is that Richard Allen's
Hey, what's
trial
up,
for the
Unsolved?
murders of Libby
Good to see
German
you.
and Abby
Good video
Williams
you just
almost
made,
6
by the
years
way.
ago
It
now
was interesting.
here in Delphi, that trial will stay here in Carroll County. However, there will be a jury brought in.
See, that made the most sense, right? Why wouldn't you just move 12, the jury? Why would you put the burden on all these witnesses, who have to travel all the way out there to Evansville? Like, that's pretty far. And the family members who want to attend the hearings, that would be a burden on them, witnesses. I think it would even be a burden on the defense. So all around, it just doesn't make sense, And plus, it would probably be really expensive. You'd have to put all these people up in the hotel, pay for their travel. It's just easier to be like, okay, let's take these 12 people and we'll pay for their, their hotels, their food, or whatever.
In from another county to hear that case. The gag order in this case remains in place. The parties involved, whether they are attorneys, family, police, law enforcement agency
up, Glitter?
officers, they are still under that gag order.
Happy Friday.
And finally, we have a bail hearing. The next court date is February 17th. Richard Allen will be back here in Delphi again for that. And at that time, they'll also talk about a new trial
What's up,
date.
Jen?
Karen, this was set for a trial in March. All parties agreed that.
Okay, so the document that I seen yesterday, here, let me pull it up on the screen for you. Okay, so this is State of Indiana, Carroll County versus Richard Allen. So it's basically letting them know the court orders the defendant's supplemental motion for discovery and request for Rule 404 and 405 evidence set for the hearing January 13th, which was today. So this is what they were talking about today at 10 a.m. Court further orders defendant's ex parte motion and order authorizing funding for fact investigators set for ex parte hearing January 13th, 2023. So this is one of the things that they were talking about. And also if they would be moving the proceedings to another county. And ultimately, I think they made, the smartest choice, right? It makes the most sense. I don't know. Everything that Judge Gull has been doing, I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? She's like, yeah, you're not going to get a fair trial with a jury from Carroll County. Not only that, it's really not that big of a county, I thought maybe she would include Carroll County and then maybe extend it out a few counties and just make the jury pool larger. But the fact that she completely moved it out like that, I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
They will not be ready for a trial in March.
And Rich, let's start with that change of venue request. Now, it sounds like the judge granted part of that.
That is correct in the fact that the
So,
jury
Frank?
will come from somewhere else. The judge asked both attorneys on the defense and prosecution about this, and everyone agreed that they could not find a jury. It would be impossible, if not, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to find a jury in Carroll County that would be impartial,
for sure.
knowing so much about
They
this
know what they're
case
doing.
and its history. And so there will be a change of venue from the standpoint the jury will come from another county. They'll take about a week for the attorneys to get together, talk it over, and suggest a county where that jury might come from.
Yeah, it seems like they're still working out the details. So I don't even think they've scratched the surface. And later on, when they speak with the defense, they kind of laugh at the idea of, that they'll hold that original date.
They're supposed to get back to the judge in about a week in that regard, but the trial will stay here in Delphi at this Carroll County courthouse.
All right. And Rich, now the prosecution, they also had a request asking for a gag order in this case. Now, did the judge make a decision there?
Samantha, you've been here for both of these hearings so far in the Richard Allen case. Talk about what we know now about this gag order.
Yeah, that's right. So Judge Gull talked about this for just a couple minutes. She was very brief talking about the gag order. Essentially, as you mentioned, she's continuing that. She did take a couple minutes to remind the legal teams that technically they are allowed to speak to the media, but only about procedural details or logistics, things like when we will see them back in court again. Technically, they are allowed to talk about that, but know the details of the case. She also took a couple minutes to address the family that was in the courtroom today. We did have quite a few family members, and she said, as a reminder, you are under this gag order.
Yeah, that's strange that the family's under that. I wonder if it just pertains to anybody that happens to be in the courtroom. Not quite sure. Even the defense seemed a little bit confused about the instructions on this specific gag order.
They left the courthouse this morning. No comment from family.
Actually, I heard that when Richard Allen walked into the courtroom, he turned, looked at his wife and some other family that was sitting there and said, "I love you."
All right, that's Samantha Johnson. And Samantha or Rich, now we know
I don't
the
think so,
private
Em.
hearing was scheduled right after the public one. What was being discussed there?
Well, that went on for about an hour, actually, after we were all removed from the courtroom gallery. We know one of the issues being discussed was how much money can the defense spend on hiring expert witnesses. Lots of other little tedious matters.
Yeah, the first thing I was thinking about when they were talking about how much the defense can spend on experts, I was thinking, well, wouldn't the state and law enforcement be kind of, they can't just hire the most expensive investigators, so they were kind of limited at the same time. So I mean, how does that play in? Do they get to maybe go spend some more money and maybe re-examine some of the things that they've already kind of touched on?
Matters that are well before a trial to be attended to that were handled during that hour-long session.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like you mentioned, that private meeting was an hour. Our hearing, when we were in that earlier this morning, was less than 10 minutes. We started late. It started
Lynn,
around 10:30,
it is him?
but it was brief. It was to the point. But that private meeting,
fool.
like you mentioned, was a lot longer.
Samantha, you've been here for both of these hearings now for Richard Allen.
What's up, Diamond?
What did you notice from the first one and then today?
Something that really stood out to me, Rich, and I noticed it the second that Richard Allen walked into that room. The first time we saw him a couple months
he's a
ago,
YouTuber,
he was
Willow.
he almost seemed
He's the
stunned.
guy
It
that
was
wears the hat
deer
that
in
says
headlights
media.
look as he kind of took in that courtroom for the
He's
first
been
time.
covering the
But when
Idaho
we saw him
murders quite a
today, he
bit.
had a much more serious, almost driven, focused look on his face. He had almost
Hey,
a
what's up,
frown. He
Deb?
seemed very dedicated. And something else we noticed
to see
today,
you.
it did appear that Richard Allen
Sharon
had family
Parker,
members
hello.
here.
That's correct. Richard Allen, what we believe may have been his wife, was here in the courtroom today. Richard Allen just left this courthouse about 10 minutes ago, and we have some brand new video, the closest video we've seen of Richard Allen since his arrest, and we'll show that to you tonight on Eyewitness News. On 13 News.
And that's what we showed was him walking down the stairs.
The Johnson, thank you both so much for bringing us that great information at the court there.
And doesn't happen as easy over email, and so I think that was kind of a byproduct of what you saw today.
How's your client doing through all of this?
It's tough. It's tough for him. I mean, we just spent 20, 30 minutes with Rick, and
With
he misses
Rick.
his wife. He misses
Get the fuck
human connection with people. So it's been difficult for him. And again, I don't know what we're allowed. I don't want to be violating any. We do not want to go awry of the judge here. And but thank you for asking. Rick is doing not terrifically, but he's staying mentally tough right now.
How heavy a lift is it to try to sift through what the judge said is voluminous material that I'm assuming a U-Haul is going to back up to your office and get a hand truck
Doug
company?
Carter calls it one of the most complex cases
So
in
it's
his
not
40
rocket
years.
science, that it just takes manpower and time.
It's a big
to
deal.
Sort through all this, but we've got staff that can assist us with this and try to vet the stuff that's important and weed out the stuff that's not. And I mean, it's just look, that's what lawyers do. That's what our staffs are used to doing, and I don't really.
Yeah, I
think
agree
there's
with you,
really
my
more to say
wretch.
about it than that.
I didn't like it.
You're going to go March 23rd?
It disrespects the process,
In terms of the
especially if
trial,
you're doing it.
I think we all know
And I'm
where
not
we
saying
are
you
with
did
that.
it for nefarious reasons, but if you're doing it so that we talk about it,
Anybody
that
that's hung
makes it
around
100
court for a
times
period of
worse.
time would
But each to his
probably be
own.
able to draw a conclusion about where we are with that.
You guys plan to ask for bail to be granted?
Well, we have a bail hearing set, and we're gonna.
Yeah,
use
he's
that.
tiny. I can see why somebody would maybe mistake him for a younger person if you were looking at him from a distance.
We'll be ready to roll.
You couldn't really see his facial hair that well.
You think you got a solid chance?
He kind of looks a
I
lot
think these are
younger.
difficult things to win. We won one.
Or I can see how somebody can make that mistake.
Or,
Or
and so it is not impossible, but the odds are stacked against you the way the law is set up.
that's if
But,
the young
the
sketch
state
even
has to-
represents him. Could represent somebody else.
burdens to meet, and we shall see if they are going to be able to meet those burdens.
When that discovery lands on your desk and you two guys are sitting there, what's going to be the first thing you're going to flip through and say, we need to look at this thing very first?
I think those are the areas that the judge does not want us to comment on, and you heard her say in court, this is
What's up, Mary?
voluminous, and
Good to see you.
it is voluminous, and thousands is not even, that's probably a way underestimation of where we're at, and we've been told there's even more discovery coming, so.
Talk about just quickly how
Good.
logistical undertaking, a change of venue is to have to go to a whole nother county somewhere, get that jury, bring them back here, sequester them. I mean,
Sure. Well, you heard the judge mention that we're gonna, I guess from a brick and mortar standpoint, we're gonna
Brick and mortar, huh?
carry out in this county, and I think it's a logical conclusion, and a lot of that is it's just trying to deal with all the
Interesting
moving
comment.
parts and not have to cause burden on other people. Of course, the most important thing here is that we get a veneer, a jury pool that we can be assured is fair and not prejudiced and unbiased. Like that's the
El
that
Guapo
is the
42.
goal,
What's up? Welcome.
in terms of where this case goes from a jury standpoint, but the rest of it seems pretty obvious to me that moving an army of people to southern Indiana is probably just doesn't. It's not the best.
Yeah,
use of
Zen, go
capital
check out her
dollars.
channel.
It's also
She's putting out content.
logistically difficult for all of us. Yeah.
Did you get your money to hire your investigator?
We don't have an order on that yet, so.
Sounds yummy.
Thank you.
Okay, so one of my channel members sent me some documents. Not sure if she wants me to say who, but I'm going to share them with you guys. I had to clean up a couple of the pages. They weren't very legible. The first two were pristine. And these are dated the 12th, January 12th. So thanks for sending these. Put those on the screen for you guys. And I haven't had a chance to go through these. I kind of skimmed through them, but I wanted to go over it with you because I'm learning as we go along, just like most of you are. I know some of you might be experts or used to, courtroom banter and all that kind of stuff, but yes, I support that message. Ryan says, sort of seems like Richard Allen has already been convicted before trial. Well, it doesn't matter. He might be convicted in the public's eye. That's why they're going to be pulling in a jury from way down south. As far south, the two furthest counties that they can get in Indiana, they're going to be yanking a jury from. In this case, it might be popular to you and it might be popular to me or people who tune into my channel, but to the majority of the United States, it's not that popular. In October, I was in Idaho and I was golfing with some people and they were talking about true crime and we started talking about my YouTube channel and I was like, yeah, I covered the Delphi case. And they're like, well, what the hell is that? I've never heard of that. And I was with two people. One was actually from Arizona as well, and the other one was from there. Hey, Miss Dog Lover. Good to see you. The attorneys didn't seem nearly as confident today as the beginning, I don't think. Could just be my perception. No, I agree with you. And some of the verbiage in this, like they were asking for the criminal results from the recent case against Tobe Lesenby and those people for all the political stuff recently. That's in here. That part I did see. The Unsolved says, I can't wait to see what his defense is. The guy puts himself at the bridge for 2 hours that day and admits in October 2022 he was wearing the same clothes. BG, have fun explaining that, RA. I think they're going to go for it was a setup. And the only reason I say that, or they may be entertaining that defense, and I think that's why they're requesting this information. They're going to say this was a political stunt. Somebody's framing him, one of the good old boys. I think they're going to go that route. Because think about it. He put himself there from the beginning, right? Nobody's denying that. They got him on video. They got him saying, guys down the hill. But we don't know. We haven't seen that. They've given us the video separately from the audio. They haven't given us the full video. What if their next statement is, oh, well, it's damaged and we don't have the original anymore? Well, that looks really suspicious in a courtroom, right? So who knows what's going to happen? But we haven't seen a video where Richard Allen is holding a gun, pointing it at the girls and saying, go down the hill. Or even the guy wearing that blue jacket who was caught on her video. We didn't see him pull out a gun and him, say, hey guys, I'm kidnapping you basically at gunpoint. So we don't have that. We don't know for a fact it exists. But that's going to be a big part of this because he already admitted he was there. He already admitted to being on the bridge. He admitted to all of this. Now, the part of him being covered in mud and blood, He's going to have to explain that. But at the same time, it's like his word against this other person, right? Did anybody else see see him covered in blood, mud and blood? Were they able to pinpoint or pull him out of a lineup? And then they have footage at the Hoosier Harvest store of him walking by? I don't know. So maybe they are going to use the, it was a setup. You know, somebody planted the bullet. One of the investigators planted this here. Okay, well, how'd they get it from Richard Allen? You know, and then that's when they would have to explain some kind of huge conspiracy from there. Miss Dog Lover says, that's crazy. Good old-fashioned DNA will get him, in my opinion. Heard rumors and only rumors that DNA was found on BG's jacket. We'll wait for the formal confirmation. Yep. Remember, the probable cause affidavit for arrest reads more like a search warrant affidavit. They didn't put any of the good stuff in there as far as details. Because we know they don't have to put everything in there. All right. Pretty much caught up on the chat. Let me grab a couple more of these. Thank you, Deb. Yes, please. Please hit that thumbs up. Yep. Here's from CF Jinx. Exactly. Richard Allen's defense attorney asked for information on several law enforcement officials. And yes, and this is the response from the prosecution. They're basically saying, hey, if you want any of that stuff, because it's not involved, it has nothing to do with the state. They were being sued personally. And if you want that information, you can go ahead and make your own request. They're trying to say it's work. That's some type of jargon, basically stating if it's something that you could obtain on your own, you can't make us go fetch the information for you. That's the way I interpreted that. Hey, what's up, Charlie Murphy? Were the McCains on the trails during the time frame of the murders? I can't prove that. Does anybody know where the security camera was located on the neighbor's house that picked up the whimpering audio, like specifically where on the neighbor's house? Are you referring to the Idaho murders? All right. So this is titled State's Response to Supplemental Motion for Discovery and Request for Rule 404 and 405 Evidence. So now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting attorney Nicholas McClelland and respectfully files its response to the defendant's supplemental motion for discovery and request for Rule 404 and 405 evidence. The state's response to the numbered requests are as follows. Discovery is automatic per the Carroll County local rules, and information will be forwarded to the defense part of discovery. This information will be forwarded to the defense as part of discovery per local rule. This information will be forwarded to the defense as part of discovery per local rule. We go down here to the bottom. Any statements made by witness and or the defendant will be forwarded to the defense as part of the discovery per local rule. The state does not intend to draft a summary of those statements or give the defense a summary. Okay, so the defense is trying to get as much as they can, and the prosecution's basically telling them, like, you can't have everything that you're asking for, you know, per the rules. Any telephone calls made by the defendant will be turned over to the defense as part of discovery per local rule. This information, the state objects to providing criminal records. Oh, here's the part that's interesting. The state objects to providing criminal records for the defense witness lists, and the state does not even know who is going to be on their witness list. If the defense requests criminal records of specific people, the state is happy to assist in gathering those records. The state objects to said request by the defense. Any information that the state has pertaining to the case will be forwarded to the defense as part of discovery. Both exculpatory and inculpatory A memorandum explaining those is outside the scope of discovery. The defendant's request is essentially an interrogatory asking the state to divulge. Basically, they're interrogating them. It's legal analysis or impressions of the case and assist the defense in assembling its evidence, which is barred by state. And they give an example of a previous case. Here it is. Okay, the state objects to this request by the defense. TR 34 states that a request for production has to be for items in the possession, custody, or control of the party upon whom the request is served. TR 26B1 goes on to state that the court can limit discovery if the information is obtainable from some other source that is more convenient, less burdensome, or less expensive. The state of Indiana is not in possession of the information that the defense is requesting, nor was the state a party to any lawsuits filed against the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Tobe Lesenby, Tony Leggett, or Michael Thomas. To impose of the state to have to track all these items down is unreasonably burdensome. In addition, it is the state's belief that this request goes beyond the scope of discovery. There is no reason that the state is aware of where this information would be relevant in any way to the investigation or prosecution of the defendant, unless they were going for a political or some kind of cover-up defense, right? And that's where that opinion came from, that portion there. Not sure where to find that. That was sent to me by a channel member. Thank you again, by the way. Jay Turner, hello. Sean Ellis placed himself at the crime scene as well. He went from witness to suspect because of circumstantial evidence. Not being able to exclude a person's gun is not the same as confirming it. Well, I believe it was confirmed scientifically. They compared the machine markings that are specific to that weapon. Now, can they convince a jury of that? I don't know. JJ says, I believe defense will put a lot of doubt on the bullet. I think they're going to try, but the more and more I look at it, like it's good. I think they're going to convince the jury that that bullet belongs to Richard Allen. Now they're just going to have to come up with a good reason why it was there. Why was it there, and why do you have a witness saying that you were covered in mud and blood? Basically coming out where, you know, the perpetrator most likely would have came out from is somewhere near the cemetery. So if they can explain those two things and law enforcement doesn't have anything else from the search, this is going to be a tough one, in my opinion. All right, we'll try to make this a quick one. So let me jump into this video. This is an interview with Doug Carter.
With some audio, I think in 19 at the same time. We've heard reports of 45 seconds or so. Is the voice that we hear from Libby's phone, is that Richard Allen?
Time will tell. Again, I think that once the probable cause affidavit was signed by the judge.
Time will tell. What does he mean by that? Let's take a listen. This is my comparison. Richard Allen to the audio that was released to public. Thank you, Sally, for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Can you guys hear that?
Cable snap. There's the word shirt coming up.
Guys, down left.
Cable snap. There's the word shirt coming up.
Guys, down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Thanks, Karen.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming
Thank
up.
you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, one more time, just the end part here.
guys,
There's
guys, down left.
cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Cable snap.
Guys,
There's the word shirt coming up.
down left.
Changes things for the investigative team, and I don't profess to be a part of that investigative team, Richard. So it would be inappropriate of us to speculate or talk about what we know until the right time, which is going to be in a court.
Will it answer all of our questions?
Oh,
or is there
no.
still?
Remember, this
close.
case is 2,100 days old, almost. And the facts in their totality will come out at trial. And not until then. I can appreciate the desire for our citizens to have these questions answered. And my response to that is it will come. It will come. But if any of us said something that would be detrimental to the criminal prosecution of the person or persons that killed Abby and Libby, and I was responsible, you should hold me accountable too.
So he's upset right here because this is when all the leaking was going on. You had a leak. Somebody was leaking to the murder sheet, and I think they were leaking somewhere else as well. He makes reference. That's what he's referring to there, and he does the same thing in the Hammer and Nigel interview.
This week, Richard Allen was assigned 2 court-appointed attorneys, Andrew Baldwin and Bradley Rosie. IT-Mate obtained a copy of a handwritten letter from Allen to the judge pleading for a public defender. Both of Allen's attorneys have indicated they will be in court on Tuesday. The special judge in this case, Francis Gull, has signed a transport order in this case. IT-Mate is told that Allen was moved from a county jail for his own safety to a Department of Corrections facility. The judge has ordered him in court on Tuesday. Our sources say that Richard Allen went to a state conservation officer shortly after the murders
about that, Dave.
and told the officer that he'd been in the area the day of the murders and had even been on the bridge that day.
What's up, Jesse?
He also told police that he didn't see anything.
Hello.
Sources tell IT-Mate that Allen didn't get much attention when he first went to police. After 5 years and countless interviews, investigators had become frustrated with the path of the investigation and ordered a review of tips and case files, and that's when Allen became a suspect.
Indiana State
interesting
Police
story.
say that they are still getting tips on this
I don't
case.
buy that.
The arrest of Richard Allen does not mean this case is over. In Indianapolis, Richard Essex, Wish TV, IT-Mate.
Yeah, I'm not buying that for a minute. Okay, so this is going to be the short piece of the Hammer and Nigel interview with Doug Carter. It's like a couple months old now, about a month and a half, I think. But the description to the full interview is in the the link to the full interview is in the description. I recommend listening to the entire thing, by the way. Yeah, this is about a week after he was arrested, I believe. Hey, what's up, Rebecca? Happy Friday. Happy Friday the 13th. For you superstitious folks out there. Yep, hello. I figured the perp had a family with kids because the guys. Yeah, John Douglas said the same thing. He says this guy has been around kids before, like a coach or a teacher or a father. Not turn left, go straight, or anything but guys, as it's a normal speech for him. Yep. And he has kids. He has daughters. You know, guys. A lot of people say that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Good to see you, Mary Flynn. I think he is the bridge guy. Question is, when he took them down the hill, what did he do next? Did somebody take them somewhere and then he helped, bring them back? And we'll jump into the timeline. Here, let's keep this moving for the sake of time, because I want to make sure we can cover that at least for about 5-10 minutes. So here is the Hammer and Nigel interview with Doug Carter.
Affidavit signed by a judge for the arrest of an individual, not just Richard Allen, but in any criminal case, especially a complex criminal case. This case is unlike any that I've seen in almost a 40-year career. So there are so many different tentacles. It's very complex, and shame on us for saying something that might jeopardize that. So whoever this quote source is, I doubt very seriously that individual is a part of the core team.
The other name that's involved in this whole.
See, they're referring to that source. They're basically saying whoever this is somebody that's not that close to the case, because if they did, they would understand how detrimental it is to protect this case and not release information that could hurt it. Because if you hurt the case, you're hurting the justice that the girls deserve, is what I think he's saying.
Story is Kegan Kline. Now, he has not been charged with anything in regards to the murders of these beautiful young ladies in Delphi, but we know that he's locked up for child porn. We know that he had some sort of communication with one of the ladies the day before they passed away. Has he been speaking to police? Has he been given some sort of...
Is he snitching? There are official documents where his attorney uses the word confidential informant.
Plea deal to help police.
We'll continue to work on Kegan Klein and whatever his
work on Keegan Klein and whatever his connection is to Abby and Libby.
Activity might be to Abby and Libby and almost 2,100.
Given some sort of plea deal to help police.
We'll continue to work on Kegan Klein and whatever his connectivity might.
Why continue to work on Keegan Klein? Is he just saying, well, from law enforcement and the courts and his case is still open? I don't think so. Why are they still working on him? Is he still yielding information? So what do you guys think about that comment before we move on? I don't know. I don't think, from when I was rereading the transcripts for the 100th time, I didn't see too many lies. It was kind of like he's trying to communicate with them without communicating with them. He's using his tone of voice. You can hear when he's really surprised, or when he's being honest, like, hey, that wasn't me. He gets all excited. And then there's other times he's like, well, I'm not going to answer this question honestly until you can prove it to me first. So we all know that he was having issues with his attorney around that same time. But it was right after that things started looking up for Keegan Klein. Him and his attorney started filing all this paperwork, all this movement. And then we had the search, the Wabash search. So in my mind, what happened was Keegan Klein sat down with his attorney, and his attorney's like, look, you need to lay out all your cards out here. What are we working with here? What do you have? What do you have in your deck? And he's like, well, however he might know it, He could have provided the fact that there was evidence in the Wabash River and that it might be connected to a specific person. If he told his attorney that, he's like, man, we got something to work with here. There's no reason for them, because if you don't give them something, they think you're connected to this crime. They're going to hold you to the flame with all those other charges. You need to start playing ball. We need to start using this currency that you have to better your situation. If what you're telling me is true and all you did was catfish these girls and solicit and do the things that you're going to face, you're going to face the punishment for, you need to come clean with that portion of it and tell law enforcement, give them something. So maybe they're still working. Maybe there's still more information that's out there. And I think maybe the Wabash search was to prove that what he was saying, because he is a bullshitter and they know he's a bullshitter, but they know his MO. They know his pattern of bullshit. You can identify when he's being honest and when he's bullshitting and communicating to you that he's bullshitting. He's like, I'm bullshitting you, but that's only because I'm not going to hurt myself and help your situation and worsen my situation unless you can put it in front of me. And he kind of, when he talks, you can kind of hear that in his tone of voice. And I think that's good. That's good for law enforcement. That means that they can kind of sense that there's something there. There's something to work with. Beach Fairy says, I wish he didn't speak in such riddles all the time. Yeah, and it could just be riddles and us swimming in his wake, I did see someone saying that he speaks like that even when there isn't much subtext. He's just cryptic. I don't know. He's been right. When he talked about the sketches, he was right. It was cryptic and it sounded like his poetic stuff, but he was right. The Unsolved. What if KK gave up RA and that's what caused him to look RA's name up in their files? That's what I'm thinking. These all seem to be dominoes that are falling, one after the other. Boom. Sure enough, there they go. And Doug Carter's like, I just wish I could tell you why the hell these things are happening in the way that, and the reason why they're happening. And in the interview, he said, soon enough. Okay, we'll spend about another 3 minutes responding to that interview with Hammer and Nigel and Doug Carter and what he said about continuing to work on Kegan Kline and his connection and what you guys think that might mean. Because, of course, I'm biased, I wholeheartedly believe that Kegan Kline was the domino that fell on top of Richard Allen. And the only thing holding Richard Allen up right now from him falling on whoever else was involved is him doing what Kegan Kline did, and that's communicating with his attorneys and laying out all his cards and playing his best hand. And eventually, I think that'll lead to this other person. And then all the information will just come out. Thank you, D. Yeah, if you guys could hit the like button, helps out the channel quite a bit. It's a real easy way to support somebody's YouTube channel. Boom, hit the like button. Okay, let me pull up this interview. Once again, this interview is from Murder in My Family. It's the name of a podcast. It's great. They cover all kinds of true crime. This was a great interview, one of the best. I didn't pull the whole thing. I pulled bits and pieces. I may not even play this whole thing. I just kind of want to focus on a specific part. Actually, before we do that, let's watch the timeline really quick. And there's no audio on this, just FYI. Jen says, I think KK is definitely involved. What are the odds that they would encounter two separate predators that are related on the same day in the same place? I mean, it is possible. Don't get me wrong. It's impossible. I just don't think there's just too many other things that have happened that lead me in the other, in a different direction. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thanks, Glitter. March. I think March, right? Sorry. Beach Fairy says it all seems to one after another. There seemed to be barely any movement, and then, yeah, domino effect. Starting with KK, but what is the connection? I think the connection is I think it has to do with the phone. They're looking for the phone that was logged in and logged out that day. Kegan could have been like, it wasn't me logging in and out, but I did see, a friend of mine and then this Richard Allen guy. I don't know what the hell they were doing. They were messing with some phones, and that's it. I went and hung out on Country Club Road, and my dad told me to stay here, so I did. And they showed back up all, his dad or his friend or whoever. And maybe he's not even connected like that. Maybe he's just connected and with some type of information. Oh, Libby told me that she was dating an older man or was talking to an older man in private, and that she would have to break things off with him if she's going to proceed with, Anthony Schatz, the super young, good-looking, successful guy. So maybe he had inside information like that kind of could lead to somebody. And they were like, oh, you're full of shit. You're lying. He's like, no, I can prove it. Like the phone that she mentioned him on, that's one of the things that I threw in the river. If you pull that out, you'll see right there that it says his name. Something, I'm just throwing out random things. So don't quote me on that. Okay, so what we're going to do real quick is we're going to watch this timeline. It's getting more accurate the more I play with it. But one thing that I've noticed right at the end, and feel free to correct me on any of this, I'm not going to put it out officially until I can get it right. But notice right at the end, after he confronts the girls on the bridge, there's just this massive amount of time that goes by before he's spotted out on that road, out by the Mears lot and the Hoosier Harvest Store. So let's take a look at this, and then we'll go ahead and play the interview, because now we'll have reference from this timeline on why exactly I think Mike Patty's statements lead me to believe that they could have actually been taken off that property and taken somewhere else and brought back. Yeah, that's interesting, Purdue. Yeah, that's interesting timing as well, Stefa. I've mentioned that before. They could have used him as a consultant, kind of come in there and be like, well, did you guys do this? Have you guys done this? Kind of cold case 101. And then they're like, no. And he's like, well, I would start here. And maybe they took his advice, started there, and found Richard Allen. Maybe it's not even connected to Kegan Klein. Maybe it's just, they were approaching it as a cold case. Time to start over. Do you think Kayla's story is real? Sleuth intuition. Seems to me her description is chilling. Yes, that took place at Foster Park, and that's in Kokomo. And once again, the killer could have been using the Anthony Schatz profile and trying to meet these girls. We know Kegan wasn't. At least I don't believe he was. We don't know for a fact, but I don't think so. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover. Thank goodness we have a suspect in the court system after all these years. We just need to be patient now until the trial. Yep. The only thing that scares me is what Prosecutor McClellan said. We believe others may be involved. We hear FBI experts, retired experts, current agents saying, well, we could tell you from the beginning we suspected others were involved. Now, are they talking about Ron Logan? Are they still stuck on that? Or are they just saying the evidence that they see in front of them makes them think others are involved? Thank you so much. Okay, now notice here, an hour has gone by from him confronting the girls. So now an hour and a half has gone by. And he'll shortly be seen right around this time. An hour and 45 minutes after the fact. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time to be hanging around a crime scene. Okay, let me load up this interview, and then we'll hang out for about 10 minutes in the chat and talk about it. Let me know if you guys can hear this.
And speaking of friends, Abby was her best friend?
Yes.
And how often was she over? Was she sort of like the kind of friend that was there all the time and the two were inseparable?
Well, she wasn't here all the time. They were back and forth, but matter of fact.
Let me go ahead and skip all the way to the 1 minute 40-second mark. Okay, this is where the podcaster asks Mike Patty what he knows about the possibility of them being taken from that location and then later placed where they were found.
Maybe it's something that police have chosen not to share. There was some discussion that possibly their bodies weren't there the night before when the search was happening, that they may have been put there, wound up there after the initial search. Do you know about that? Is that true or accurate?
Well, I've had nothing from the police officially telling me that, but just based on facts and information that I've collected, I have no reason to believe that they weren't there and they weren't brought back. And that's just based on the fact that I've talked to a lot of people who were involved in the search or involved in different aspects of this, and but nothing official has been said. Yeah, this is where they were. This is where they've been. They haven't been moved, because obviously until we catch the perpetrator and answer all these questions, you don't know exactly what happened.
Okay, so I found that response very interesting. To me, if it didn't happen, they would just say, Mr. Patty, no, it didn't happen. They were killed. And we know in the Ron Logan affidavit, they say the girls were killed where they were found. But we also know it says a lot of other stuff there. They try to paint Ron Logan as the killer. They try to say there was no signs of a struggle. So I don't know what's real and what's not. And I just don't know what to lean on as far as information. But the statements by Mike Patty there made me feel like if they're not going to give him a clear answer, then maybe that possibility is still on the table that that's what happened. I mean, think about it. We watched the timeline, an hour and 45 minutes from when they make contact on the bridge to where he's seen covered in mud and blood near the Hoosier Harvest store. An hour and 45 minutes has gone by. You're trying to tell me that this guy just sat out there doing a bunch of whatever weird things out here in the woods. That's a lot of time to just keep yourself potentially in a place where he could get caught. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense. Unless he was panicking. Did he pass out? Did he get into a fight with another perpetrator? Did that person maybe knock him out? Was it his blood on him? I don't know. But I've never entertained the idea that they were taken and then brought back. People would say, oh, what about the thermal drones? They didn't pick up anything. The truth is, if they were taken and brought, they would have had to have been brought back like around like 3:30-ish, 3:40-ish, So they still would have been there. So we're going to hang out in the chat. I am out of time. So we'll hang out for about another, 5-10 minutes, okay, guys? And then we'll get out of here. Thank you, Honeybee. Thank you to everybody who participated in the chat and in the discussion and who was just here hanging out. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. All the newcomers, welcome. Thank you, Purdue. I appreciate all of your support. Longtime supporter. Thank you. If you did not catch the live stream and you are part of the replay crew, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about what we talked about today. Hey, Miss Persevere. Good to see you. Hey, Lynn, thank you. Good night, Patricia. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Good night.